Hey, this week on The Flip Side, we're going to talk about the most important thing in Christianity, the resurrection of Jesus.
And we have my most favorite Canadian in all the world, everyone. His name is Mark.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My favorite Irishman and American.
So join us. We're going to have a blast. As you see, we're going to have a blast on The Flip Side. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 6 of The Flip Side. And man, what a crazy special episode. We have our good friend, Pastor Mark Clark, all the way from Vancouver.
All
the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Give it up.
You know what's so fun? And by the way, before we get to the coffee, he's pouring.
This is really good. Thank you, sir.
I gotta say,
appreciate it.
In the entire history of The Flip Side, the extensive history, you are the first guest we've ever had.
Really?
You're the first outside person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I feel very honored.
But you're the second international. I want you to know that.
Okay. Yes. Because you.
And Kurt has a Parisian mug.
Where's Lucas? Lucas, come here real quick.
Oh my goodness.
Lucas.
Alexandre.
Lucas brought this. You brought this all the way from Paris?
Yes, I did.
Okay. This is our young media guy, Lucas. You're what?
He's a good man.
13 years old.
Yeah, 13.
He was playing with a baby. He was playing with a baby this morning, though, and I thought it was his. I was really confused. He was so good with it.
19, smart, hardworking,
Lucas.
godly, and very single.
He is hardworking.
Did you bring me
He got me an email that Ray could not get me for the life
Dalton,
of him.
you left before we asked. What are we drinking?
Very competent.
Costa Rica from Fourscore.
Costa Rica from Fourscore.
Right.
Wow, is this free trade?
On.
Is this fair trade? And
So we got Canada.
Yeah.
We got Ireland. We got America.
Yeah.
We got a Paris mug
NAFTA.
with Costa Rican coffee.
Oh,
this
man,
is the United Nations today.
This is the most global theological discussion.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, enough of that. We got to get to it.
greenery
We
as
got to
well,
get to
just
it
to make
because
sure we got it.
my wife came home. I was preaching at a different campus.
Yeah.
My wife came home. I said, "How was it?" She was like, "Why aren't you Mark Clark?"
Wow.
She loved it. She loved the content. She loved the passion.
I paid her to say that.
And and I was even asking the crew here, just like, what are some questions you asked Mark? And the first thing that came up is, tell us a little bit. I just want to know before we get into the content. Tell us about your teaching style because it's really unique. It's kind of a mix between verse by verse and old style camp preaching with some great,
really
like on fire philosopher in the center of it.
Yeah.
So, how'd you come to your teaching? What's your thinking on it?
So philosophically, I would say it's something where I try to, because I come from a skeptical philosophical background, and then kind of introduced myself to the Bible, and so was blown away by the theology of the Bible. And so, expository, verse by verse, so we do 3.5 years through Matthew. We just got through Matthew for 3.5 years, and we just started Corinthians, and we've been in it for 5 or 6 weeks.
We were thinking we were doing so good on 22 weeks on John.
It would take me forever to get through John, like forever, because it's not even like Matthew where he just goes to, it's every verse is philosophical, right?
I tell you, it was hard for us at John. It's
very hard.
So
I'm verse by verse, and then I'm constantly stopping and kind of using conversational partners and doing skeptical philosophy. So if I got to John 3, for instance, I said, for God, let's stop. Yeah. What do we mean by God? What do you mean? You're an unchurched person, you're an atheist, you're an agnostic, you're a Buddhist, you're a Muslim. Let's define what Christian, and so that's going to take me 20 minutes. Okay. Now I'm like, for God so loved. Okay, hold on, what is love? What does that mean? All right, you think love means this, your butterflies in your stomach. So now I'm defining, so that's kind of how I preach, real world, raw, try to be.
Real world. There's like an honesty it's kind, but it's a little brutal. Like you kept saying this way, you're a disaster.
Right.
You are, but it never came off as arrogant or anything like that. It was just kind of this refreshing thing of going, we're going to come to the Word of God and we're going to just admit where we really are.
Right. Well, if we're a disaster, Jesus looks better. So I start with that. One lady described my style this way. I think this is a good summary. She said, you punch and play.
Oh.
And so that's the rhythm.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'll punch you. I'll say you're, depraved, sinful, narcissistic, and you're like, yeah, I kind of am. And then I'll tell a joke and all of a sudden your guard's down and we're laughing, and then all of a sudden the theological point hits you about how Jesus is good.
Yes.
So anyway, so that's kind of how I weave in and out, and we've kind of gone after unchurched, de-churched people, but tried to stay very, I would say one writer says theologically conservative and culturally liberal. So that's kind of our balance.
question is it working, and define working?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's working because pragmatics are important. I mean, does something work? But things can work and be completely theologically vacuous. So you don't want to have it work and be terrible theology.
Yes.
Yeah. So you want to do both at the same time. So the way I define working is people are meeting Jesus, people's friends and family are meeting Jesus, the church is growing in that sense, but also people are theologically getting discipled, actually understanding the gospel for the first time. So when a person from another church shows up, and I don't know if that's ever happened at Bayside, of course, it's just pure pagans that show up here, but if another person was to come here from another church, what I want to see happen, if they're here, I often say go back, if you're not serving, giving, being so, but the gospel drops for the first time in their life, that they understand that the death and resurrection of Jesus has everything to do with their money, their sex life, their family, and they've been sitting in church 15 years, and all of a sudden the penny drops, and now they're on mission to reach their neighbor for the first time in their life. I take that as a win, because what we count as wins is theological conversion. That's actually a big deal, gospel conversion and straight up like pagan conversion. So.
One more
we've seen a lot
this
of
topic.
that.
One of the things I've noticed in you, Mark, is you don't speak down to your. It's very user-friendly for the non-church person, but doesn't mean it's light on content. I think some churches here in America, and this is probably a season we're getting out of now, kind of soft-sold the information or said we don't want to appear too academic, and your style really. Talk to me about the level of content you want to put in a sermon, or the level, the challenge informationally wise that you're thinking.
Well, I'm in a post-Christian culture, so I got to hit skeptics, philosophy, psychology, smart people, and that's my background. So it kind of spills out of me just naturally. I want to talk about it. That's as a preacher, you got to talk about what's actually interesting to you, or you're going to be boring.
Really, really great.
You're going to be boring. You're going to be like, oh, I'm talking to you about money again, and you're like, oh my gosh.
That's all I do. I preach to me.
Yeah, preach to you, preach something. So I'm constantly going, how do I deal with you? I don't even believe that God exists, or how do I prove that from this text, So I'm constantly doing that and trying to do it in a way that, most people would walk out of my sermons, and it was funny, a buddy of mine, Kerry Newhoff, and I just taught a preaching course. It's called The Art of Better Preaching. Okay, 13 modules.
Wow.
And we're vastly different styles. So he's points, he's like structured, he's this and that. And I'm not. And so we have these different perspectives. And so someone would leave a sermon from Kerry Newhoff and go, there was a big point to that. I mean, he's a brilliant communicator, and he can make a point. People will leave my sermons, and someone will sit for them at lunch and go, what was the sermon about? Like, think of the sermon you heard, like, whatever, last night, this morning. You wouldn't even know where to start. Like, it'd just be like, it was about a lot of things. Where do we start? I don't know. It was about the existence of God, evil and suffering, the Bible as legitimate, So I never make one point. It's a hodgepodge of stuff that's crazy. And hopefully over time, it actually disciples people.
Does that remind you of anyone we know?
Oh, yes, indeed.
It's the way Ray is. Ray's a shotgun.
Right. It's all over the map.
But he moves everyone's needle further. Totally. And I tell our interns, I say, don't try this at the beginning.
Right, don't try this at home.
Really, the whole myth of it only has to be one thing, or that's the only style. Ray just does it brilliantly, where he'll come and just... It's rapid fire, multiple topics, exceeding expectation, and everyone goes home going, I am as full as I could be.
Right. Couldn't really tell you or recite what it was about, but
I knew a guy back in Ireland, and he got wonderfully saved, became a Christian, but before that, he was just involved in the Troubles and running guns and whatever, and they used to call him Scatter O'Hara. Because his eyesight was so...
Only in Ireland. Scatter O'Hara, everyone.
Scatter O'Hara.
He's fighting McGregor next.
his
will win.
eyesight
And
was
will
so
win.
bad
Right.
that his friends didn't even trust him with their gun because he would, be firing all over the place.
Right.
But you know, he got some things occasionally.
Okay.
So
So yes, it's like that.
okay.
Scatter
Clark.
McGregor.
Scatter Clark, everybody is with us.
All right. Let's get to the passage here. So I just like here's the opening question I just want to ask you, and I got a couple of these softballs here, but I got a couple doozies here. So tell me about your pre-Christian interaction with this idea that Jesus came to earth and died and rose from the grave. Tell me about, and that is there a time in your story, Mark, where you were grappling with the reality of the resurrection? Because you say a lot, I come as a skeptic. Is there? What's your first interaction with this whole idea that Jesus
I'd say probably 10 years old, going to summer camp. My parents are divorced, and my grandfather is a Christian. He's the only other Christian in my family. He's 95, 96 years old now, still alive. Got saved at a Billy Graham crusade back in like the 50s. But then my parents, my cousins, nobody bought it. Not even his wife bought it.
Wow.
So he's sitting there by himself, and so my parents get divorced, and he sees it as like as an entry point to expose me to the gospel in some way. So they shipped me off to summer camp for 3 weeks, and I told this story in the hell thing, where literally the first time I heard about it was sitting.
Explain. We had an
sorry,
conference
in the hell.
Mark
thing.
did a conference.
A hell of a sermon.
A breakout.
What was the name of that
breakout? It's the problem of hell.
The problem of
at
hell.
8 in the morning. So I mean, very fitting to talk about hell at 8 o'clock in the morning.
He wasn't referring to having dinner at my house.
No, which was heavenly.
So you.
So anyways,
you go
yes.
to camp.
So I go to camp, and the first time I hear is 9 years old, and there was something compelling. So it was it was a week of a guy with a puppet, talking.
Back to the hell seminar.
Hey, what's going on, kids? So no, it's compelling to me. I was like, oh, Jesus, interesting. And then by the fire, it was like, hey, guys, I remember what they did is they told the story of Elijah and the fire coming down and lightning, where he's like, hey, rain, Lord, and they had a piece of toilet paper, and they lit it on fire, and they had a fishing line from a tree down to the fire, and they put gasoline on the fire, and the thing came down and lit the fire up, and I'm a kid, and they're like, do you want to go to hell? Because the hell's like this fire.
Wow.
And they would flame up, and everyone's converted. Everyone's like
Bayside Christmas services.
So it was turn or burn night, bro. That's what they called it. Anyways, so that was the first exposure.
And then you became a Christian in spite of this.
Right, yes.
What you're saying?
I looked at it as sincere. I saw something in it, if I was honest.
Okay.
I went home, I forgot about it 2 or 3 weeks later, and then would just live my normal life and whatever, wouldn't care.
Yeah.
So that was my
But
first
every time you saw
exposure.
toilet
Every
paper.
time I saw toilet paper on fire falling from the sky, I thought, oh, the gospel. So anyway, so it's amazing the seeds that God puts in your life.
Yes.
And so that when a guy approached me in woodworking class when I was, whatever it was, grade 11 or 12, Chris Watt, he came up to me, and man, it just like connected at a soul level. And all of a sudden I was like, I want this. And it was just like overnight. It was crazy. My whole life changed overnight. I would start preaching to people at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they would give their life to Christ, and I just baptized them in the lake. This is 2 years before I was ever baptized, which is really bad ecclesiology to be baptizing people. But anyway, so that was so that was the first kind of exposure. I actually really liked the message of the gospel. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't something to make fun of necessarily, but it wasn't something I lived by until 10 years later or whatever, when in high school a guy approached me with it. So
Right. So the verse 29, when it says, "Blessed are those who believe without seeing," you had an encounter with Christ that was as impactful, as life-changing as the people in the room with him at the resurrection. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I don't know if it's that, but here's where I met. Augustine says
very dramatic happened.
Yeah, Augustine says the Bible is the face of God for us now, which is very powerful. That's where I was led by Chris. He inspired me. Then I opened up the text, and the text is what got me.
Good.
I read the text, and it was crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask this question, and Andrew, I want your answer on this too. Verse 29. It's a, and I'll skip to the end, and we'll back up.
Yeah.
Blessed are those who believe because they've seen. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. What in the world does that mean? I mean, what is it? Is that meaning that we read the Bible and that's going to be enough for us? Does that mean that, without seeing, we just we believe because we believe because we believe? What in the world did Jesus mean?
I think he means without seeing me personally. So he's talking to them who are seeing him physically, and he's going, "You're blessed because you see me. You get to put your hands on my side." But then there's going to be everyone after me. Everyone after I'm gone, I ascend. They're not going to see. And so blessed are them who actually didn't see me physically. It's like the people he prays for in John 17. Everybody after you, when they actually believe, that's going to be crazy.
So one of our speakers at the Apologetics Conference, he was talking about this very verse, and he likened it to the Beatitudes, blessed. And so he took it right back, and he said that word blessed in the Beatitudes, Matthew chapter 5, is exactly the same here in John, same word. Right. And he says at its very root, it means the ability to flourish. Right. He says the whole idea is the thought of flourishing. No, you'll be happy. Even though you don't see me, you're going to be really happy. Yeah. It is when you get the revelation without physically seeing me, you are going to have the ability to flourish with just the absolute knowledge that the supernatural, even though the visible is not there, the supernatural is in your life and the very presence of Christ is with you.
You see, here's what I've always thought about that verse. And I discovered Jesus, didn't see him, but my experience of discovering him was very real and very dramatic and very life-changing, very similar to what you just said. And so I didn't see him physically, but I discovered he was still alive. The whole chapter is these people that thought he wasn't alive anymore, then they discovered they were wrong. I had a discovery experience, and it was through reading the Gospel of Matthew. And it was through the Christians that came in my life. Yeah. But I mean, in the presence of the Holy Spirit, in the conviction of the Holy Spirit, in the joy of the Lord, in the all of a sudden having victory over fear and doubt and moral habits, in the regeneration experience, blessed are those who believe, who have that encounter, even though they didn't see. So to me, he's saying there's two different types of realities. One's the one you're having right now, but everyone throughout the ages that wants to is going to discover that I didn't die if you seek me. So, it's not a. Sometimes it just bothers me because I think it can be taught. Oh, you just have to believe. Mm-hmm. And I didn't just believe. I encountered the living Christ. And believe. So that was a good point.
Kurt.
Do you like how I set Mark up, let Andrew ask, and then I came with the. It's kind of what we did here.
He's taking notes on himself. He's so good.
Okay. I want to ask this question. This might be solved. Different versions: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Not a single one of them records it identically. If I'm a skeptic, I remember as a young Christian reading this and reading Mark and going, what? And going back to Matthew, and those are the Gospels that should agree.
Right.
John is way different.
He's his own world.
He's got a fresh young female star named Mary Magdalene. He's doing a different track.
Yeah.
What is your answer to the seeker, the skeptic, the thinker who goes, what in the world's with that?
Well, the first thing would be there's a lot of secular scholars who don't like the fact that there's subtle differences in the resurrection narratives. And the reason they don't like it is because if we're creating a religion, then what we would do is make sure all the facts are lined up. So
our cast.
Yeah, let's make sure. So Matthew has this many angels, John has this many. Boy, everybody, let's get in a room. We're going to create a conspiracy here. Okay, how many angels are going to be? They're going to be two or one. You go with two or one. You go with two or one. Don't go rogue on me and go one because you're going to screw everybody up for the next 2,000 years. Do not say two if we're going with
He's
one.
Irish. He would have six.
You would say, So anyways, so the fact that there's not contradiction. There's ambiguity sometimes. And scholars actually look at that and go, man, I actually struggle with that because if these guys created this, it would be all in line. There'd be no difference. There'd be no ambiguity at all. There's a little bit, nothing. There's nothing that we can't explain.
Nothing that changes theology. Nothing that
one
can't
gospel says there was two angels. Another one says one talked. Because that one's authorial intent, hermeneutically, is to explain that one is talking. It's not saying how many were there.
Precisely.
And where there's two, there's one. So we're okay. So anyway, so that's how I think.
Any other season in American politics, this is the season that illustrates this. Intense events are remembered slightly differently by eyewitnesses.
Yes.
Can I say that?
Okay. Are we going to get into American politics? I'm a Canadian. I can riff all day about this.
It's really, I mean, honestly, if they were identical accounts, that would be much more skeptical.
It would feel a little conspiratorial.
Yes.
Yeah, I think. So there's subtle difference, but there's nothing that totally contradicts.
Okay, but what about this one? Okay. What about this? Mary doesn't recognize the man that she's been following for 3 years and has supported financially.
Yeah.
She looks at Jesus and goes, "Oh, you're the gardener."
Right. He probably looked different. It's the same problem as Luke 24 and the road to Emmaus. They don't even recognize him because he's incognito, and he walks with them for 7 miles, and he doesn't even look like himself. Who knows? The guy could have looked like Andrew for all we know.
I have got a theory. So obviously these are all theories, but she's weeping and weeping and weeping
she's
and weeping.
clearly intensely emotional.
And still not. I know there's a little bit of an air of he could have risen, but I don't think they still really expected that he was up.
No, she's doubting the whole time.
And so she's going to make the funeral
She's searching for
complete.
a body. She's searching for a body, you know. And
It's
so
half
I think
dark.
at that moment, you brought it out so well last night about she never even reacted to the supernatural angels. There was no freak. I've just seen 2 angels. Okay, I didn't find Jesus. That's a pretty good substitute. I'll see Jesus in heaven. But I saw 2 angels. She doesn't. She just dialogues with them without any shock or out of any awe, and it's almost like she just rolls. And it's like the power of grief in her life. Yes. She's just overwhelmed at that moment in time, and of course I don't think Jesus was there bloodied and whatever. I don't think it was a better appearing Jesus. The last time she saw him.
Yeah, he's in a glorified state. And some theologians point out, I mean, and this might be a little poetic, but how beautiful is it that she sees the first thing she sees in the new creation is a gardener in the kind of renewal of the Adam and Eve story. You see the one true man in a garden.
You know what I think it is? I think it's context.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get this. I know you get this. I'm in Safeway with my shopping cart, and someone will look at me. That's Pastor Curt, and they're used to seeing me in the context of teaching.
Right.
On a Sunday morning.
Right. Where you have a lot of makeup on.
Yes, exactly. And I've got the filters.
And you're very wise.
And I've got the tight T-shirt to suck everything in.
Suck everything
and then I'm just in my sweatpants in Safeway at 10 p.m.
That's a scary
getting toilet
scene,
paper.
bro.
And they literally, people will follow me for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That can't be him. He eats. And if I say something to him, hey, I won't believe it until I put my hand in your ice cream. I mean,
I thought you were the janitor.
It's Curt. No, we've all met someone that we have said, I think I know them, and then the context is mentioned.
Right. Yeah.
And
that's
it'll
a good
come
point.
to. That's without the idea of the intensity of this crucifixion and how she lots on. To me, like if you follow the dialogue in a poorly written television show, it's too perfect.
Right.
Yeah. Follow the dialogue in a real conversation. Yeah. It's more like this.
Yeah.
That confusion about the garden is evidence against stabilization, not evidence.
Can I go full Spurgeon at this moment? Okay. The beautiful thought here is, how did she recognize Jesus? And this is the good news for us. Back to verse 29. It wasn't his visible image that she recognized him, it was his voice.
Yes, that's the beautiful part.
That's
Mary.
That's when he called her personally by her name, that I know it's the Lord. It was his voice, it wasn't his image. And I think for every believer, that's what really switches us on. It's his constant voice. There's a bit of Spurgeon there.
All right. Here's the other little strange part of this passage. It's strange parts of the passage. It's apologetics week around here, and do not cling to me. So Mary, she has the moment, and then she grabs onto him, and Jesus is uncomfortable. The hug is too affectionate or something. I mean, what is? It's verse 7. I mean, I got my theory here. I got my theory on what I think it is. Yeah. But he's immediately like, "You are hugging me too hard. This is a little." You're hugging me too hard. And he says, don't cling to me because I haven't got the body I'm going to get.
Right. What do you think?
You want to go with McCourt first here?
I was waiting for Clark right there. No. I think it's one of those ones we don't really know.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. John is such a different God. John's always trying to make a point out of everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
like
layers
Nicodemus
of
came to him and
points.
it
He
was
wants-
night. It was like you're supposed to read in, you're supposed to read into everything in John.
Yes.
When it's night,
He's the
it's
melodrama.
spiritually night. It's not just night.
I call him the soap opera gospel.
Yeah.
It's all dun, dun, dun.
It's everything is something.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, maybe he's about to give them, you know, the Great Commission in Johannine language of, you know, the Father sent me, so I send you, and all of that. So maybe he's going, you can't actually, he's already made this point. If I don't go, you're actually worse off because I am,
think you're onto it.
right? I'm here. But once the Holy Spirit comes, now you guys are going to be able to multiply out and do a whole bunch of stuff. I can't chill here.
Yes.
If I stay here and you hold on to me,
Yes.
there's going to be, I'm here.
Yeah.
But the Holy Spirit comes, it's going to multiply out. And so let go of me. You're going to have a mission to go on. You got to get out of here. I got to send. I got to go on to other things. You got to go and live your life without me.
I think that's it. I've never been, you know, the idea of dispensationalism to me feels very contrived. But I do believe from the resurrection moment to the ascension is a really unique theological period.
Yeah.
It's just a concentric circles of concentric circles in the middle of a big transition.
Right.
And I think he's saying, I have limited time.
I love that. I'm just rolling.
I got limited
We're in
time.
John's gospel. It's all
He's going, hey, we got work to do.
Yeah.
Go, you are my chosen witness.
Yeah.
Go back and tell them. Don't linger here. Let's not have a big rap session about what just
100%.
happened.
Yeah.
You got to go because...
You got to go be a missionary.
You know, I mean, you follow this moment all the way through the book of Acts, and Jesus is like, all right, disciples, come here.
Yeah.
Stop goofing off. Everyone, pay attention. I'm about to tell you the most thing you're going to hear.
Yeah.
You've seen me raised from the grave. I'm about to leave. It's better for me that I leave.
Yeah.
And I want you to go in Jerusalem, and with everything you have in you, take all my miracle, authority, resurrection power, and wait.
Right.
Do nothing. I think he's hurrying the moment to Pentecost.
Yeah.
I think he's going, listen, our job's not done here. We've defeated death, but the Spirit needs to come and saturate the crud out of you guys to establish my church. And that's the hurry moment, not the Jesus doesn't want to hug you.
Right.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. No. I don't think there's a
Good.
Jesus. I don't think there's a Jesus doesn't want to hug you. Thank you.
So, we've already gotten through my 6 questions. Mark
That's
talks
good.
fast.
We get
Well,
done.
there's a lot of energy. Help me here, Andrew. What else do you got? You preached in Santa Rosa. What did you see? Here's the thing about working with Andrew is I steal about a third of his stuff and get all the credit. It's fabulous.
It's good.
Stop.
It
What
is
did you
so
preach?
good.
What?
From John.
Well, we had an outline, and our key thing, we had points.
You should have
Mark.
sent me an outline.
We had
for
points.
Pete's sake. Points.
3
Oh
points.
my gosh!
It's the way
You guys
God
were
talks.
way ahead.
I think one of the
Could've
things that
helped
we
me
really focused on at the first was just the grief moment, and how Jesus just steps into her grief, recognizes her grief, and realizes to some extent that he caused her grief.
Right.
This is an amazing thing. And that there would be this moment of resurrection. Wow, he is alive. But actually, this is going to lead to a lot more grief. Right. And it's just this whole thought of grief is real. So this was not heaven. He was resurrected. He was going to ascend. But the reality of John 16, in this world, you are going to have trouble. Now, enjoy this moment. Realize just the power of the resurrection. But I read this earlier from N.T. Wright, and I love this. It's the whole thought of her being the woman, the first one to see the risen Christ. Mm-hmm. She actually became the apostle to the apostles. Mm. I just thought that was so absolutely profound. That this woman who you noted last night couldn't even be a witness in court, and here she was attesting to the greatest event in history. And all the Jews it was the Red Sea, it was the Exodus. Whoa, no, it was that we would open up literally hell and death and blow the whole thing apart. And who was going to be the clarion voice of that? This woman with an absolutely banjax background. I mean, she was a mess.
A what?
Banjax.
What's that?
You never heard
Do you
of
know what that means?
My vocabulary
Is he
is
doing Irish
increased.
things
There you go.
now?
Look it up, everyone.
200%
Oh,
banjax.
we got Jamie here from from Ireland. Jamie, what does banjaxed mean?
Banjaxed.
Look at Andrew. He's a
It's like ragamuffin nonsense background.
If you look it up in the
Right.
Greek, it means banjaxed.
Right, like messed up.
She was just absolutely messed up, been in every recovery program, and full of demons. Delivered shrieking.
Just keep adding.
No, but let's get
Yeah,
into it. Luke chapter 8 tells us the few verses we have about Mary Magdalene. And it's, to me, this is one of the beautiful, most incredible stories. She's a long-term follower of Jesus. She has a number of demons. They mention the number, specific 11 demons. She's been delivered of demons. So she's on when Christ died, she said, the guy that freed me is no longer here.
Right.
And then it says that she provided for Jesus. I want to know the backstory on that. She provided for Jesus out of her. So this is a really interesting thing we tend to kind of skip over. Jesus had a financial support team. And right in the center of the financial support team was a woman who had severe demon problems just a moment before.
Right.
And then she ends up here at the end in John 20. She's the star of the show.
Oh, she is.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's this idea that it's not until almost 2,000 years later that the authenticity of the report is established by the fact that it starts with a female.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got sovereignty all over that.
It's just amazing. I think in the day and age that we're living in, it is good news for women.
Yes.
And it is just the absolute confidence that Jesus has in humanity as a whole, the way that he made them. And again, it's back to Eden. It is, he created them in his image, male and female. And we're not going down various avenues here, but I think it's just a powerful moment. You, woman, broken and woman, go and tell the men who at this point are very broken because of all of their cowardly runnings away and betrayals and denials and all of that stuff. Go be the apostle to the apostles.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but so we got to get one more character in here. Thomas. Thomas, one of the few people in the Bible that get a nickname. Simon gets one. Jesus doesn't even introduce himself. Simon walks around and goes, "You're Peter, not Simon." Right. John gives himself his own nickname, the disciple whom Jesus loved. A little arrogant. Yeah. And then Thomas is unjustly, I believe, stuck with the worst nickname in all of the apostles, and maybe the Doubting Thomas. And I'm like on a personal one-man crusade to get his nickname changed to Thomas, who had a reasonable question, and then once he actually touched Christ, went into India and was a stinking awesome evangelist. Tom, it doesn't fit on a name tag.
It does not. It does not.
But
it's
you know,
not
just
catchy.
Tell me what you think about Thomas there.
It's off-brand. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He had a legitimate question. Jesus showed up, showed himself to him, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I believe." And so he's like all of us would be.
Yeah. And he's like all the other disciples. They all touched his wound in the session before. Look at the passage.
Right.
And then we're making fun of him for wanting the same experience.
Right. Yeah, no, I think we got to find ourselves in him, find ourselves in Mary. I mean, that's the thing. We're not, if you read the Bible like you're Jesus, then you are going to be crushed because you're not Jesus in the stories. You hermeneutically need to read the Bible like Mary, the disaster with the demons, like Thomas the doubter, because then and only then do you see that Jesus is good and you're a disaster. Coming back to how I preach to my church every week. You're all a freaking wreck. I'm surprised you've got your pants on and got to church today. You're all so narcissistic. Stop looking at me.
What's the name of your church?
Village Church.
You should change it to the Disaster.
Disaster Church. Yeah, Disaster Church. Well, if we're going to build a building, it's going to have Revelation 3 over it. You are pitiable, poor, blind, and naked and wretched. That's awesome. You know, welcome to Village Church. Because that's the default position, has to be the default position of your soul, so that Jesus looks. You know, Martin Lloyd-Jones pointed out, you have a lot of preachers who have no effect. And the reason they don't have any effect is because they don't talk about sin. Yeah. If you don't talk about sin, then nobody's going to want to fly to Christ.
Yes. So
they're not going to understand the need to.
Can you be reformed and nice?
I am.
No, I'm not asking you.
Yeah, no, I think you can. I think you have to be. You punch and play. Because you have to be one of them. You have to be. You have to go. I'm the chief among sinners, right? I'm the one who recognizes the glory of God, recognizes the sovereignty of God, recognizes the goodness of Jesus. But I'm a disaster. Yeah. But that's the beautiful part of the Gospels. I can't perform. Yes. I can't earn it. There's nothing I can do. So what's the point of me trying to say it was me to begin with? He moved. It's his grace that I'm going to point to in the end and go, he did this for me even though I didn't deserve it. Yes. That's the beautiful part of this thing.
That's
so
so
yes,
good.
I think you can.
I think, to your credit, Mark, you have come here, you've spoken about hell, because we asked them to.
Right, for an hour at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, hell, total deprivation, you've gone for sin, you've gone for all of it, and yet you've had people with you the whole way coming back for more.
Right.
And really turning to Jesus, and I think that's a remarkable
It's
thing.
almost like the gospel still actually works.
It does. Preach the word. Preach
That's the
word.
power we got, because everything else. The thing is this: what you win people with is what you win them to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you win them with unicycles and
Yes.
circus clowns, that's all you're going to win them to.
Yeah.
And they will need the drug every week, 5 times a week, until it doesn't work anymore. If you win them with the gospel of their own sin,
Yeah.
of the reality of what Jesus has done, of the reality of the scriptures, then when their life falls apart, what are they going to need? Another great rowling sermon that gets them emotionally all jacked up?
Yeah.
No. They're going to go, oh, I got the God behind the gospel. I got the
Yeah.
God behind the scriptures when I get the cancer diagnosis, when my kid dies.
Good.
That's what you need to point them to, not a rowling sermon.
Yeah.
That they're going to emotionally go, oh, I need another one of those. I better get addicted to a podcast.
Yeah.
No, I want them to get addicted to the word behind the word so that they actually can function in life. Anyway, so that's my passion.
Counsel that order of unicycles. We had covered.
Ding, 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 ding.
Mark, I want to say, and I hope some of your church members are watching. Thank you so much.
Yes,
We worked
thank you
Thank
for
you
this
for
church.
having me. You guys,
Yes.
I
mean,
love this
seriously,
church. You guys are actually, to be honest with you, they're the funny. Other than my own church, you're the funnest church to preach at in my life, and that means you do a good job. Your people are the most welcoming, hospitable, jacked
Yeah.
up, and
They
ready
wanna
to
learn.
learn people
They
I
wanna
know.
learn.
I mean, it's electric in that room.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and what about this podcast? Is it like possibly the best podcast?
This is the second best podcast I've been on this week. Second only to my own.
Okay,
Clark
to the
podcast.
point. Hey, follow him on
Subscribe
Twitter.
today.
Get him on
it's
Instagram.
literally me talking into my phone as I drive.
Get him
riffing
on
nothing.
Snapchat.
Oh yeah, Snapchat.
Find him on Google.
Find me on Tinder.
Get the report
Yeah.
the FBI's
Is that
put
a
out
thing?
about
I
him.
don't know if that's a thing.
Let me say this.
Swipe me.
That last
Not
point.
Tinder.
No,
it's
no,
off the
that's
rails
not a
now.
thing.
No.
The point
Don't
that
know what
Mark
that
made.
is.
Listen to me. The point that Mark made. The last point, which is, it's not about the next event. It's not even about the sermon. It's about really God penetrating into our lives every moment of our lives.
Yeah.
And this is why we're doing this podcast. We're trying to go, it's not the 1 hour you come and bring yourself to church. That's the launching pad for all your whole week. So, all that to say, get back here for the flip side.
Kurt.
Get into your Bible.
I'm writing down an idea for next week. So if he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to say it. But if he likes it, we can go with it.
Read it if you can read it.
Absolutely. Paul and Priscilla next week.
Yes! That was a great idea.
They're very funny, they're very informative, and they're very, very, very Irish. So you definitely want to be around here for the flip side next week. And by the way, please remember, like, share, follow. We're on iTunes now. We're on the Facebook page, and we're on YouTube as well. More formats to come. Like, share, follow. Like, share, follow. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right.
We'll see you guys later.